Hi, I'm Phillip Raskin, and this is RDI's People Matters, version 4. So why don't you tune in and see us talk about stress and ways you can manage it, especially in a Korean workplace. All right, hi everybody. I think as Gordon said, I have spent a long time in public relations, PR agencies, basically office work. So my job today, I think, is to talk about office stress. Particularly Korean office stress, which is a special, unique, better than other people's stress, as we are in Korea. Stronger, faster, fighting. And as somebody who actually, I'm a team장, I'm a boss. So I'm actually somebody who's causing stress, in addition to experiencing it. So I've seen it from quite a few angles. Sorry, it's probably better if I don't hold this up, right? Whatever. So what I'm going to talk about today, I think, is lessons learned from that, and maybe some strategies and ideas you guys can use. Sounds all right? Okay. So yes, as mentioned, I work in PR agencies. Now, journalism is tough. Journalism is really tough. But you still have a little bit of control because you're deciding the stories. So when you work in public relations, you're sort of begging journalism to cover your stories. So you're already giving up an element of control. And then, of course, you have clients, and you're sort of begging the clients. So you're kind of always a bit supplicative, either direction, which leads to a lot of stress. And I think, my theory is that this stress is actually the lack of control. And it's a really important thing to delineate what you can control, what you can't control, and how to make peace with it, right? That's the famous saying if you're an alcoholic, I believe, more or less. So I was looking up all these causes of stress that might happen in office. Long hours, that doesn't happen in Korea. Heavy workload, random changes in organization, tight deadlines, job security. These are all things that you just experience on a daily basis, right? Well, maybe not job security. And so the windup is that a lot of the time we just get really wound up. We get really stressed. And it's very difficult to find a solid ground. And I agree with what Mina says, if you take some time and breathe, but sometimes it's bigger than that. I do meditate, and sometimes I have 20 minutes of meditation that is me thinking about everything that's bothering me, and the bell goes off, and I go, what was that for? I don't feel that much better. I breathed a bit. There is that link. If you study physiology, there's that link between your breathing and your brain waves. So if you can do it, it's really important. But I work in a business which is crisis management as well. At any minute, a client can have a problem, and we have to help them. So one of the real challenges is really finding this place that you can decide what you can control and not control, and just be okay with it. And I think it comes down to three main things. So would you like to hear the three main things? Okay, good, because it'll be a short talk otherwise. And apologies, I'm getting over a flu, so lots of liquid. Okay. So to me, the first thing is actually, it's very dear to me, which is just communication in general, because this is what we do, is communication. The biggest way you can reduce your stress, believe it or not, is to talk. And we usually say that is, you're going to complain to somebody. But that's not really what I mean. What I mean is understanding how you can use communication to manage some of these things you can't control. Talking to your boss, for instance. Finding ways to talk to your boss. I'm a boss. I'm not always easy to talk to, I know. And a lot of the ability to disperse the stress is to use that conversation to get communication to fix things. So for instance, if I'm dropping stuff on your lap at 5 p.m. on Thursday every time, you need to be able to tell me, I don't want to do that. Or I'm going to leave the company, or I'd like to do something different. You have to set your limits. Which can be quite challenging, especially in this context where we are supposed to just listen to our bosses, right? Does anybody besides me experience this? I also have a boss that I have to listen to. And so what I really advocate is kind of understanding how you're going to work with people. There is a modality of how to communicate to people. I can share that with you, which is called the Miller-Reed model. Anyway, it's essentially there's different types of people. There's people like me who ask to do things like, hey, can you help me out? And there's people over here who say, let's get it done, which is usually your boss, right? And so when we figure out where we are in that spectrum, we can see right away where we get stressed. If I'm a friendly person, I'm always over here, and you're over here not really going to help me. I'm going to have stress in the office because essentially it's getting things done. So understanding that dynamic, and also this model comes with an XY axis. I really would have loved to have a slide, Gordon, but apparently I didn't make one.
I don't need it.
You know, I'm just going to draw. Do you have a pen? I can just draw right on this.
A laser pointer?
A laser pointer, yeah, that's pretty cool.
In the middle, that's.
Really? You sure? Nope. But I appreciate it. So okay, let me go through this model really quickly. Over here is ask, over here is tell. Down here is I care about you as a person. Up here is I don't care about you as a person, get it done. And we can see that if you make this like an X, everybody we work with is here, aren't they? I don't care what you want, shut up, get it done. And that becomes very challenging, right? Most of us, we say, oh, we're down here, we're so friendly. I prefer to think of it like does anybody watch the BBC show Sherlock? Yes? It's going to skew more female, I'm pretty sure. My wife is all over, well, not all over Benedict Cumberbatch, that sounds wrong. My wife will watch anything Benedict Cumberbatch is in. So you have the different types. You know, you've got Mycroft over here, he's the driver. You've got Sherlock here, the analyst. You've got John Watson here, let's get along. And you've got maybe Moriarty here, let's express ourselves. We'll just say. And the important thing in the office point is to be able to understand who you're talking to, how they work. If you can do that homework, you can reduce your stress. If you have a boss who needs a ton of data, and you're getting stuck with deadlines because they hold things or they don't give you things, can you give them more data? Can you understand how they work? If you are a get along person down here, like I am often, you can see you're not going to get things forward. So can you change your communication style? Can you work with somebody to understand that? And likewise with your colleagues, you know, talking to them. So a lot of this comes down to how can you express this to work on the issues to reduce your stress. Now I know that's not the same as squeezing a stress ball. Sorry. Just thought I'd give you that. But it is important, and it is something that I find actually helps me quite a lot to reduce stress, is to figure out why am I angry, what's the mess. I see how we got here. This email plus this meeting plus this little IM got me to a point of stress. What could I have done to change that? What could I do next time? What can I do now? So a lot of the time, it's understanding that and seeing where the communications can add some control. So you can't control everything. You know, if the team stays late always, you're going to stay late. If there's a huishik on Friday you don't want to go to, you have to go, right? But it's understanding where you have some control. It's going to ratchet it down a bit. I think as humans, and I know we probably have a more psychologist approach to this after me to correct anything I say, but we tend to get overwhelmed by lots of little things. You know, it's adding up. So this constancy of stress and this constancy of demands, and it's more, you know, in this workplace, it's constant. I am on the phone, I am, you know, messaging on Kakao while somebody is IMing me on a Skype, while I'm getting an email, and while I'm supposed to be in a meeting. So when you're adding all that stuff up, it really bottles you up. So to me, that's one thing. If you can really understand how to use even 5% of that and ratchet down your control, or ratchet up your control, ratchet down your stress, it'll really make a big difference. So I encourage everybody, it just takes thinking about who you're working with and how it's collaborating, right? Because we all have to work with lots of people. Yes? You mean my diagram wasn't clear? It's like I wanted to make one slide, but then I thought it was too much. So, okay, your X is, it's basically how you direct other people. So if you start over here, the extreme left, you ask somebody, you know, hey, it would be really great if you could get me that document by Friday. And the middle is like, that document is due Friday. Over here is, God damn it, I need it by Friday, hurry up, right? I'm sorry, it's the other way. I'm backwards. I'm upside down. It's this is gentler and this is harder, let's say.
Command, ask.
Yes, it's tell and ask. So I should say ask and tell on this axis. And then up and down is how you feel about the emotions at work. So there are a lot of people, sometimes your boss, a lot of times I see really high up Korean executives like this where they want to yell at everybody, but they want everybody to be okay. They sort of feel bad that everybody's upset. And they walk this line where they want to be directive, but they also care about the emotions of everybody. So the more you care about the emotions is here, the more you care about getting it done is there. So when you mix these two together, the type that we most commonly see in business is, I just want to get it done and I don't really care what you think. You know, I'm just going to tell you to get it done and I'm not really fussed if you're upset. And because we're in this kind of bunker mentality at work all the time, it's so busy, we just get to that place. But then we have to think about our defaults, right? So most of the time when a colleague says, you're really good at, I don't know, statistical modeling. I've got a project coming up. It would be awesome if you could help me. You're like, yeah, I'll make time for that. You're all over it because that actually feels better. And so you can do that with your colleagues and you can sort of teach them to do it with you or trick them to do it with you. And then that creates a workplace where at least, so a crisis happened and I got to talk to journalists and everything's gone terribly, but my team is sort of with me and it feels better. So then that becomes something. So I'm under stress and maybe it's unavoidable. You know, when you work in PR, there's always like a product problem or, you know, some crisis issue. And you're not going to make that go away. We're not magicians. But what we do is work on the communications around it. So when the deadlines come fast, furious, the ability to manage that cuts our stress down. We still have a stressful job, but it becomes less overwhelming, less angry, less cortisol, and more just, let's work it out. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so that's point one. I'm going to check what point two is. No, point two is, point two about it is to know yourself and know your reactions to stress. So I think Mina was saying she's going to go to a 15-person island. We all have our stress reactions. And to be able to really put a check on yourself and see what's happening to you in a situation is a big thing. So for instance, my example of me is I will go for American diner food or American junk food. I'll have a craving for it. And it's something that I just really, it's like I want to go take a long lunch and get something, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm upset about something, I'm soothing, I'm self-soothing. So can I unpack that and find out what my stress is? Then I can help solve it, or I can decide what it's about. Actually, years ago, I used to really like this old TV show, because it's like 20 years old, called Sports Night, which is about a TV show about a TV show. And if you watch The West Wing, it was the show the guy did before he did The West Wing. And I used to watch it like 10 years ago when I was really stressed out, and I realized it was because I like the workplace that they portray. Everybody's smart, snappy, but they all get along and they have little problems, but they, you know, a lot of respect. And when I felt my workplace wasn't like that, I wanted to watch a show about it. Which is not as productive as, say, changing my workplace, but it's understandable. So when that leaks into your brain, when you start doing things, many of us smoke or go drinking with our friends or do all these kinds of things, it's a reaction to what you're feeling. So can you go and do something with that? Can you find out, what am I feeling? What are the causes? What can I do something about? And then you have a lot better shot at managing it. Of course, if you get obliterated drinking a lot, yes, you are managing it. You're not thinking about it for a while, and that's the point sometimes. But it's a short-term solution. It's still going to be there. So, you know, yes, you lost your job. You may want to go get drunk. But ultimately, you have to get a new job. So you have to face it. And when you understand your own triggers and what's going to cause you to think about it, then you are that much closer to relieving the stress. You know, so the stress is going to be with you, but you have a chance to kind of productively address it. So those are points 1 and 2. Any questions? Okay, it's the room getting tired here. The third one is really easy, which is one of my favorite parts about Korea, or Korean business culture, which is that lunch hour. that 12 to 1 sacred lunch hour where nothing ever happens. It is free time. You know, I was living in Singapore and I was calling Korean Air and they were closed for lunch hour in Singapore. And they yelled at me when I called. They're like, don't you know it's lunch hour? I'm like, don't you know you're in Singapore? But you know, that is sacred in Korea. Nobody touches that 12 to 1. It is a great time to go to the gym, to go for a walk, to work on your book, to do whatever. You don't have to have lunch with your colleagues every day. You can do it once a week. I'm a huge fan of going to the gym during lunch. I feel so much better going to the gym during lunch. You don't have to do what I do, but just something. Just say, I've got this time built into my day. Come in half an hour early if you need to, so you can maximize that hour. And just find a way to say, this is my time, I'm going to regenerate. So I think when you're on a real treadmill, as we often are, it's really difficult to find the time to just think or relax. And each hour you do it is not going to fix everything. But cumulatively, you're going to build up some resilience, some calm, some relaxation, and it's going to just help you a lot. So that's what I think. So that's my view from the world of business in Korea. Obviously, I'm not a true, I don't know, Korean businessman. I can't speak about all things, but I've done business here long enough to say I know how the offices work, and these are some of the things you can do. So I hope that's helpful. Any thoughts or questions or comments or even disagreements? It's okay.
Yeah, we'll take this up in the Q&A.
All right, then that's
So
it for
thank
me.
you very much, Philip.
Sure, Gordon.